Notorious productive family, the Mississippi dynasty.
Hello everyone, real time with Mississippi. So today I'll be talking about ways in which you can immigrate to Canada. So for those of you guys who want to come to Canada, pay attention. And for those of you that are in Canada that have families that you want to bring here, these are the ways in which you can literally bring your loved one, friends, and people that you want to help. So I'm going to break it down into two categories. So coming to Canada on a temporary status and coming to Canada on a permanent status. But we're gonna start first with coming to Canada on a permanent status. So on number one will be sponsorship or adoption. So those two are kind of similar in the way that they are. So you can actually sponsor your loved one. So if you're a citizen or you're like a resident, you can actually sponsor your loved ones to come here. You can actually adopt your loved one as well if you are like their legal guardian and they are underage, you can actually adopt them. So it just goes under a process of like kind of sponsorship. Number two, there will be express entry. So express entry is a program that was developed in Canada to fill the skill level job market. So it's been around for a while and still going on up to now. So if you have a particular skill that is required by the Canadian government and you have all the other required documents and status code, you can apply for express entry. And if you are being accepted, you're applying, you're being approved, you can come to Canada, and upon your arrival, you become a permanent resident. The other one as well is the Provincial Nominee Program. The Provincial Nominee Program was developed in sideline with the express entry. So, for example, let's say your profile didn't qualify for the province that you're applying for, but you still have a good profile. Another province might look at your profile and say, oh, even though they didn't take this person, but he meets our requirement, so we are going to nominate to take him in this province. And if they do nominate you, they'll send you a letter to to um uh, to apply for the permanent resident. And if you're granted, then you come to Canada, and upon your arrival, you become a permanent resident. So people need to keep in mind. You don't have to do them together, the nominee program and the express entry. You can actually do them separately. You can just apply for the provincial nominee. You can actually do them separately. Another one is a specific pilot program. So based on like specific provinces, they might have some needs that they want to fill. So an example would be like there are some francophone areas that are in the middle of in an anglophone zone. So they want to bring more francophones in that area. So all that you need to be eligible to apply for a permanent resident to come and be in that area is that you need to be able to speak French. So then you just go and you take your French exam, and if you pass, you can just go on the pilot program and you can apply. You can show your proof of French knowledge, and that's all you need. So there are different pilot programs based on the different provinces. So many of them, but I just gave that one as an example so you know. So based on the province's need, they can introduce a pilot program. But pilot programs are usually temporary. They're not something that is going to be there for a year or 2 years. It might just be for 6, 7, 8 months, right? So those are the four ways in which you can come to Canada permanently, which are like kind of trendy. So for coming to Canada on a temporary status, so number one would be education. So for people who are coming here to study is probably the easiest, fastest way to get into Canada. The easiest and the fastest. The only perk about that is that it is actually the most expensive, right? That's all you need to know. So if you're thinking about coming to Canada fast, that is probably the ways to go, But the process is a little bit more expensive, and education in Canada is extremely expensive. I don't usually advise people to do it, but if you're going to come to Canada, that is one of the kind of easiest and fastest ways to come to Canada. The next one would be like business visa. So a lot of people come to Canada all throughout the year for medical reasons, visiting family, visiting specific sites, Canadian sites. Canada is very beautiful, for all the different reasons that they want to come here for business and whatever, for conventions. So you can actually apply for a visitor's visa to come here. The problem with that is actually right now, I think the processing time for visitors visas is approximately a year. Yes, it's approximately a year depending on what you're applying for. So you need to keep that in mind. If you want to apply for a visitor's visa, you need to make sure that you give ample time. So you can actually see the processing time it takes to process the visa. You can actually go on the Canadian immigration website and you'll be able to see that. The next thing that I want to talk about on that note is also work permits. Work permits are usually very difficult. They don't just give it to anyone. People think, oh, I want to come to Canada to work. Yeah, it's not that easy. So work permits are usually given to people. Most work permits are given to people who are in the high class executive, like in companies. So companies that's big companies that span across America, Europe. So those kind of companies. These are the kind of companies that people who are working who usually manage part of the company that are interacting with different countries. They need work visas. So those are the kind of people who get a lot of work visas, not for regular small jobs. But you can actually have, right? If you have a valid employer, which is very important, you need to know the employer needs to be valid. Getting an employment letter from an employer in Canada is very tricky because there are certain um, like regulations that that letter has to meet before it's actually given to someone out of the country. So, for example, you the employer must have looked for someone in Canada about six for about 6 months and not have somebody that can fill that position before they are able to give it to somebody out of the country. So you need to also be very cautious about people issuing, you know, employment letters to you. You have to be very careful. Make sure you check with the employer. Especially if you have a middleman. Most of the time, the employment letters will carry a letter, and so you can always use those numbers or need to speak to someone there or the emails from the company. A simple Google search will tell you everything. And then also on the work permit, so another part of applying for work permit could be like, for example, if you have your spouse that is in Canada that is probably going to school, you can as well as a spouse, you're eligible to apply for a work permit. So you can come here while your spouse is going to school. You can work and actually help them out, right? Because Canada is expensive, so they would give you a work permit based on the length of time also that your spouse is actually studying. And then the last one on that list I want to talk about is asylum seekers. There's in-country asylum seekers and there's out-of-country asylum seekers. So just to give you perspective, as the wars are happening around the world, like you see in Ukraine, in Israel, in like the Middle East. So huge organizations here in Canada are able to go into those countries and take in refugees and bring. This is just because they have the finances to go pay for everything. They are processing their applications, be pay for their flight to bring them here, be able to house them here, provide them with some financial needs to keep them up. So anybody can do that if you have the money to actually go get these refugees in other countries or whatever. If you have the money to be able to take care of them, yes, you can go. But the only advice I'll give you is seek the advice from like a lawyer, like an immigration lawyer, so they can actually help you go through the process the right way. So those I think are the main ways in which you can actually immigrate to Canada. So now if you have any questions about the things I've been talking or you want me to elaborate more in a particular way about coming to Canada, leave a comment in the comment section and just tell me what you need. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the videos, share with your family and friends. Thank you. Bye bye. Bye bye.